where we're going to crack open the mechanics of monumental change. We've got a story today that sounds, frankly, almost impossible, yet it perfectly captures the hidden architecture of success. We are going to unpack the journey of a man whose quiet, unwavering patience created an absolute miracle. Now, he didn't have heavy machinery, he didn't have endless funding, and he definitely didn't have a massive team. He literally just had a shovel, a bit of water, and this ironclad commitment to repeat one remarkably small action every single day.
Okay, let's dive into this. What if one action actually changed your life? I know, it sounds like a total cliche, right? But think about human nature for a second. The reality is that most of us quit whatever we start because, well, we just don't see results immediately. We live in a world that absolutely demands overnight success. If we don't see massive, sweeping changes in a week or a month, we just abandon the whole project. But as you're about to see through today's source material, true transformation doesn't actually happen in giant, sudden leaps. It happens over a really long period of time, in those quiet, tedious spaces where most people just give up.
Section 1. The Barren Hill. So picture this. Daniel lived in a village surrounded by completely exhausted land, just ruined by illegal logging, fires, and years of neglect. And, when the land dies, the hope of the people living on it kind of dies too. There were no birds, the rivers were shrinking to nothing. The villagers looked at this cracked, dusty earth and collectively agreed, it is hopeless. They genuinely believed the land would never ever recover. But Daniel, he completely refused to buy into that narrative. Hopelessness is a choice, and Daniel decided to make a different one. One morning, he just went out and bought a single fragile tree sapling. His strategy was remarkably, almost laughably simple on that first day. Step 1, climb the hill. Step 2, dig a small hole. Step 3, plant the tree. Step 4, water it. That is it. No 10-year master plans, no expensive environmental consultants. He simply went home, went to sleep, and the next day, he repeated those exact same 4 steps, just did it all over again.
Section 2. The Laughter. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how he handled the pushback. For weeks, the villagers mocked him relentlessly. They kept asking what difference one guy could make, telling him he'd be an old man before anything ever changed. But Daniel didn't argue. He just smiled. He focused entirely on the sheer power of the number 1. 1 tree per day was his only metric for success. He completely detached himself from that massive ultimate goal of a forest and hyper-focused on this single unit of effort. Rain or sunshine, freezing cold or blistering heat, whether he was exhausted or just busy, he never missed a day.
Because this wasn't just some casual weekend hobby for Daniel, it became this strict, unbreakable promise to himself. He actually kept a meticulous notebook to track his daily action. Every single tree received a specific number. Every location was physically marked down. Every seedling was checked regularly to make sure his work was actually surviving. He treated this incredibly simple daily task with the utmost respect. He was carefully managing a project that, at the time, literally only he could see the value in.
Section 3. The First Science.
Now for 2 agonizingly long years of invisible progress, it looked like the villagers were right. Nothing seemed to be happening. But finally, Daniel started noticing tiny changes. A few returning butterflies, some birds, soil that actually held moisture, natural undergrowth starting to heal the ecosystem. And once that healing began, the momentum shifted dramatically. From just one single lonely tree on day 1 to those first tiny signs of life in year 2, all the way to year 10, where thousands of trees were thriving. One small step encouraged the environment to take another step, which encouraged another. The pacing of the results speeds up because real progress builds upon itself. The absolute hardest part is just surviving those first 2 years of invisible growth.
Section 4. Weathering the Storm. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. One autumn, a vicious storm rolled through and wiped out dozens of Daniel's young, vulnerable trees overnight. Months of painstaking daily work were just gone. Everyone assumed, okay, this is it, he's finally going to throw his hands up and quit. But the very next morning, Daniel climbed that hill carrying another sapling and delivered an absolute masterclass of a response. He said, "The storm removed my trees. It didn't remove my purpose." Wow, let that sink in for a second. The external results were temporarily destroyed, but his internal drive, completely untouched. When that sentence spread across the village, the laughter finally stopped for good. Section 5. The Ripple Effect.
And this brilliantly illustrates how human behavior scales. His dedication triggered a total chain reaction. It actually started with a young girl named Emma who watched him every afternoon and finally couldn't just watch anymore. She walked up the hill carrying a small bucket of water and simply asked to help.
That first Saturday, they planted 2 trees. The next weekend, Emma brings her brother. They plant more trees. By the next month, their parents are coming, and neighbors are joining in. Soon, they're planting hundreds of trees together. It proves that great sweeping movements almost always begin with just one incredibly stubborn, determined person leading by example.
Section 6, 10 years later.
Section 7. The real lesson.
Fast forward a full decade. That once empty, dusty hill looked completely unrecognizable. Thousands of trees, animals returning, rainwater staying in the soil, the river actually healing itself. Families were even visiting on weekends. This incredible transformation eventually brought a confused reporter out there, seeking Daniel's grand environmental strategy. But Daniel, standing in this massive canopy he created, delivered a total mic drop moment. I never tried to plant a forest. I only tried to plant today's tree. Monumental goals are almost never achieved by staring at the monumental goal. If Daniel woke up thinking about 10,000 trees, he would have been paralyzed by the sheer volume of work. Even standing in a mature forest, his mindset was exactly the same, one tree at a time.
So, the crucial point is the stark contrast in where you place your mental energy. On one side, you have the trap most of us fall into, right? Focusing on the entire mountain. It's overwhelming, it induces anxiety, and frankly, it just makes you want to quit. But on the other side, you have Daniel's method, focusing strictly on today's step. If you just execute today's step and then repeat it tomorrow, eventually, you're going to look up and realize you are standing squarely inside the forest you always wanted to build.
Section 8. The legacy.
Let's move to and see how this builds. Eventually, of course, Daniel grew old and slowed down. He couldn't climb the hill as easily. But, you know what? His greatest achievement wasn't even the forest. It was the children who gathered outside his home every single morning with their own saplings, waiting to walk to the hill. Through sheer consistency, his weird little daily habit organically evolved into a community tradition. And that tradition became a permanent legacy that would outlast him by generations.
Section 9. Planting your forest. Listen, a lot of your dreams probably seem totally impossible right now, simply because you're trying to finish them in a single day or a single month. But look at how consistency translates into real-world action. Are you trying to write a book? That is just 1 page a day. Trying to get healthy? It's 1 workout. Fixing a relationship? 1 meaningful conversation. Starting a business? Acting on 1 idea. A forest is never, ever created in 1 afternoon, and your future works the exact same way.
Which leaves us with the only question that actually matters. What is your one step today? What is the one small action you can take right now and repeat tomorrow? If this explainer shifted your perspective even a little bit, I want you to go down to the comments right now and type 1 step every day as a commitment to yourself. And definitely make sure you subscribe to Gravonix Stories for more breakdowns just like this. Because remember, the massive, sweeping life you dream about is built entirely by the small, quiet choices you make today. See you next time.